Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Snapshots and Stories. And I'm Paul Owen, and you are
I'm Kate Taddock. How's it going?
Kate. So we're kind of going to have fun tonight. Tonight is going to be all about some seasonal photography, and what I mean by seasonal is the trees are showing their leaves, and there's blossoms in the air, and the bees are flying, and more importantly, the birds are out. So we're going to talk about taking photographs of birds on this particular episode. And we're going to talk about what you're going to need, or what we recommend for you to use for birds, taking photos of birds, whether they're in flight or whether they're sitting perched. And we're going to show a lot of photographs and talk about, this is what's right with the photograph. This is how it was taken. But if we reimagined it, it could have looked like this. But did we have the right equipment at that perspective and that kind of stuff? So we'll cover all of that. We'll cover when's a good time to go out and find birds and get them at their best, the best time, the best light. Maybe some things you'll learn a little bit about habits and that kind of stuff. And we'll talk about equipment and recommendations. So from that, yeah, we're just going to take it from there. I'm going to get Kate to start with her, if you don't mind, Kate, with your photographs, because there's some really, really interesting photographs there that you can talk about, and then I'll give you my spin on what I like about them.
Sure. Well, it's funny. I realized after I decided to showcase these photos that these were taken in January. So they aren't necessarily, spring photos or anything like that, but they did happen because of two things. I put a bird feeder in proximity to my main entrance,
Mhm.
and I have acquired a telephoto zoom lens, and which I didn't want to wait until the spring to get out and start taking bird photos. So I happened to notice that this feeder I'd put out was attracting a lot of chickadees, a lot of purple house finches, cardinals. So I was like, you know what, I'm not going to wait. I'm just going to go out and just conveniently lean against my house and just take and take the photos with this I believe it's a 70, is it 70 to 200 millimeter
Yeah,
lens? Yes, it is.
yeah.
I and let me just pull up one here to kind of show you what I'm working with. So I'm going to share my screen. Almost there. Oh, I think it was my first podcast.
There we go.
Okay, do you see that chickadee?
We do.
Yeah, okay, great. So another reason I wanted to go out on this particular day was just the most gentlest, beautiful snow. And I found that the birds seem to like to feed in the morning,
Hmm.
and which also seems to give a nice diffused light in my yard in general. And I have the benefit of working from home 2 days a week. So I'm able to kind of see the pattern of what the birds are doing.
Hmm.
And the bird feeder is conveniently hung beside the patch of pampa grass that I just leave the stalks in the winter to kind of blow and look pretty. And the birds love them.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So what isn't obvious in these photos is that there is like a red tubular feeder not far, and I've cropped that feeder out of most of these photos just to give the idea of, the birds are, in this bit of a dreamland. It's kind of, you know like a wild kind of place, and there's not a bird feeder just a few inches away.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the same day, just within a few minutes of each other. I think this is a purple house finch, I think.
Hmm.
I'm sure if I'm wrong, maybe one of our viewers can write in and let me know what it is. Yeah. And then this one, yeah, the bird feeder is just barely out of the picture here, but I just love the dreaminess of the snow, and
Yeah.
the snow like sitting on top of the grass there, and chickadees themselves are kind of, they're kind of like the cats of the bird world to me. They're so cute and fluffy and playful, and they just kind of have that I don't know, mischievous, innocent quality about them.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
What I'm liking about, I think, all of those photos is the fact that there's a lot of environment in them. So, and like you say, it's a magical place and so on, but typically there's just some environment that they're in. Because lots of times we see photos, and I do it all the time, where you just crop in so tight that you really don't see the environment either. So I guess it's a choice of, do I want detail on the bird and to be able to see
right.
all the identifiable features that it has, so that I do make the correct assessment of which bird it actually is? Or do I just want to take a nice photo of a beautiful bird in a great environment? And there's two different kinds of lenses that you would, or focal lengths. I shouldn't say lenses, because you obviously could do it with the one that you had, because you can crop in very nicely on that bird and get lots of detail, or you can go out to where you are now and then have an absolutely wonderful shot of an environment that creates a whole story all on its own. That's kind of
Yeah,
what I like about those
absolutely.
shots.
Yeah, and I find that this focal point, so I have the lens, it's all the way out to the 200 millimeter focal
Yeah.
length for all of these photos,
Mhm.
and the aperture at 4, and it really does, at that aperture and that focal length, provide that really nice background blur,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
that you just, I don't know, I just love it so much. So,
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, and I haven't, for the past few years, I haven't had a good telephoto lens. I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen unless you wanna say anything else about them.
Um,
Okay.
no, I think we kind of covered those photos there. They speak for themselves. They're very, very nice photos.
Thanks. Um, yeah, so yeah, what was I saying? Oh, yes. I haven't had a decent telephoto lens in a few years, so I'm really excited this year to get out and take some bird photos, perhaps on the river. I know you've
Mhm.
been sharing some lately that have just been breathtaking. So I'm sure me and our viewers were all interested to hear what you're gonna tell us tonight about how to get those images that
Oh,
you're getting.
yeah, yeah. We'll definitely cover that for sure. Um, so I guess based on some of the photos that I've taken that you've seen, and some of the photos that you've taken, um,
Yeah.
you can see that there's a need to understand what you actually need to get the photos the way that you like them, and then the photos the way that I take them. And I think a lot of that is based on the equipment that we have. So I think what we'll do is I'll cover that first in just a couple of minutes, just to talk about what I use to take photos, so people will know, they're not thinking that, oh, I've got this 50 millimeter lens, I can go out there and get this great shot of this really small bird 300 feet away, and it's not going to happen.
Been there.
So
Been there.
so I think it's important to understand that. So I'm just going to do some photo sharing here. So just give me 1 second. And there we go. So I've got a little screen up. You can't see this one yet, but it just basically says, what time do we start? So if you're going to take photos of birds and you want to get like even Kate's pictures were taken, was that close to, was it starting to get dark? Or was that in the middle of the
No, so it
afternoon?
was no, it was morning. It was morning. So the light was low, but it was actually morning light. So I'd say probably like between 9 and 10 a.m. in the winter in
Oh,
January.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've got some trees and stuff in front of you and for
So
the light
what
to go
is
through?
happening is, yeah, I'm leaning against, yes, exactly, trees. I'm leaning against my house and the sun is coming down through like those old pampa grasses and yeah, through some trees. So I have
Okay,
some
perfect.
things.
Okay. So what time do we start? So if you really want to get some really nice light, the best light
Yeah.
to get is when the sun is just coming up. And the reason I say that, or just going down or almost setting, because you get that golden hour light, and that light is diffuse, and it's actually refracting, and you're getting a different color scheme on it. So the light is softer, and there's a special glow to it,
Mm,
and it doesn't blow out all of the birds, especially if there's a lot of white on them, and that'll
right.
really be your best friend. And I'll give you some examples of that. Let me see if I can work this thing properly. So what's in my bag? So here's what I want to talk about. a little bit about equipment because we need to cover this. So when I first started doing bird photography, I bought a Canon 6D Mark II, which is a full frame DSLR. And then I bought a Sigma 24 to 70. And that was not for birds, that's for the sunrises and all that stuff first. And then I
Right.
bought a Sigma 150 to 600 zoom
Ooh,
lens.
nice. That's nice.
And so that's what I bought. And you need that if you really want to get up close and personal to these birds. And also I have what they call an extender or a teleconverter, which will actually give you even more power again. So that would take that 600 millimeter Sigma lens and bump it up to 840 millimeters. So you can get
Oh,
really,
that's
really close.
cool. Yeah.
So, that's what I started with. And the reason I want to show that, I'll go back to that slide just for a second, is because you don't need to go out and buy the top of the line Canon lens, top of the line Canon camera, or
Mhm.
Nikon or whatever your brand of choice is. You can go out and buy some very well, reasonably priced products that we call them third party. But Sigma, Tamron, those are probably the two most common that people will use as secondary lenses, and they are really, really good. In fact, the Sigma 70 to 200 is rated better than the Canon's top of the line. So, and in three different magazines. So,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, so it's huge. So, but anyway, but now what I'm using, and the reason I'm using it, and I'll tell you a bit in a second, is I'm using some mirrorless stuff as opposed to the DSLR. I switched up to mirrorless, and I switched up to mirrorless, and then because you do that, you're going to change your lenses too. That's just natural. But I switched up to mirrorless because I wanted more speed.
Yeah.
So this is the part that's going to be important for a lot of people who want to take pictures of birds in flight. Birds in flight are going to be fast, and you don't want a SD card that's going to bind up when you're or buffer out when you're starting to do your bursts. So as that bird's taking off, maybe it's a duck, he's just splat, 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 and then all he's flying in the air. These things are super fast. In order to be able to catch all that movement without buffer, you have to have a card that can write that speed fast enough. So you'll see on this photo I'm showing, there are two types of cards. There's a CF Express card, and then there, of course, is the SD cards, which most of us are used to. Certain
Mhm.
cameras you buy, you can use those CF Express cards. Now, the reason they use them is for this spec here. And Kate, I know you can't see this, but there's the write speed that's on this card. It's at 1400 megabytes a second. If I go to the SD card, the fastest speed that I have on this particular one is 250 megabytes a second.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
so the difference is huge. And the reason that you would go to the fastest possible card you can buy, if it's an SD card, try to get that fastest writing speed because you don't want to buffer out, especially if you got a bird, maybe like a osprey that's going to be hitting the ground, hitting the water and coming up with a
Right.
fish. You don't want to buffer out in the middle of that, right? You want to make sure that you're going to capture whatever your camera is capable of capturing. Make sure you've got some batteries with you and SD cards. Make sure they're charged up and you got lots of extras because you will run into snags. So that's basically some of the stuff that I recommend that you take with you when you go. And if you can get a camera, that's got. Oh, the reason I went to the mirrorless. Sorry, I forgot to cover that. Is because with a mirrorless camera, you can get faster frames per second. So your burst speeds are
Mm,
considerably faster than what they are with a mechanical shutter that you would find in a DSLR.
and quieter too, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like you can put
Like,
it on silent
yeah.
shutter and not even hear it.
Oh,
Yeah.
game
And
changer.
I was saying to Kate today with the R3, I just found out, and I knew it before, but I forgot about it. Then I started looking at it. I can put that thing into hyperdrive and get like 195 frames a second.
Wow.
And I went out and practiced with it today just to say, okay, is this
Yeah.
true or is this false stuff they're saying you can do under the most
Mm.
perfect conditions? Anyway, I went out and sure enough, you can. It's unbelievable. So I'm excited to try that this year. All right, so that's that. So the reason that I take a 24 to 70 with me is because I do like the sunrises. So if I'm going out, lots of times I'll go out in the boat with a friend of mine, and we'll go up river, and it's dark, like it's 4:30 in the morning. It's totally black out. We're going in the water, and it's black, and we're going up river because we know the sun's going to come up, so we can get those beautiful sunrises. So this is going under the Hampton Bridge. Again, Kate, you can't see this, but underneath the steel bridge in the morning, it's just absolutely gorgeous. The sun's starting to, we're still in the blue hour. So we got a lot of deep blue sky, but on the horizon where the sun is just starting to break, you're starting to see that gorgeous sunburst color that you'd see on a Fender Stratocaster, that sunburst finish. Just gorgeous. And then sometimes you see these absolutely wonderful pink, red, gorgeous clouds. And it's just
Mm,
wonderful to see that. As it breaks, now you can start to see that you go in more into, we've gone past the blue hour. Now we're getting into the golden hour. So we're getting more of that yellowish, warmer kind of tones. And the birds are starting to fly now, that kind of stuff. And now we've got those warmer tones, a little bit more color. It's just absolutely wonderful. So those are kind of the things that you will see out there. Now I'm going to pass a lot of this stuff because there's a lot of stuff here that we don't need to go through. I'm going to try to bring up some of the shots that I've just done recently so Kate can follow along. And I think I've got them here somewhere. Just bear with me for a moment. And I have it under May.
do you
Here we
find the
go.
bird? Do you find the birds so far are kind of on schedule this year? Is
Yep.
there more of a variety, or is it a pretty typical year?
No, it's been good. Everything seems to be coming from the way that I've expected it to come. So it's been really good that
Good,
way. Okay, so I
good,
just brought up the picture of the cardinal I just took yesterday. So
beautiful.
I wanted to bring this up for a reason, not because it's a pretty picture. It is a pretty picture when you look at it from this distance, but we're going to zoom in on it. And I'm going to show you some imperfections in this because I want you to see why it's important to do certain things. So if you look at this bird in general, it's a gorgeous red male cardinal. We're seeing lots of detail in his wings, lots of detail in his crown, in and around his beak and the breast area. There's lots of that. There's even a little bit of a blue-gray patch on his back,
Yeah,
which we're able to get.
interesting.
So that to me was kind of special because that's the first time I've seen that.
Yeah.
Um, so that photograph, he was out in my backyard, and I had to go down into my basement to see through my window that I can see the bird. And I'll take the shot
No,
first just to say I got the picture. But here, folks, something I'll tell you not to do. Do not shoot through glass when you're trying to shoot
no.
wildlife because it will soften
Mhm.
your image like you would not believe. You will not get anything sharp. So, however, so what I did, I took my own advice. I said, okay, I got to get this door open just enough that I can get my lens out the door that I can actually take a picture of this bird before he flies off because these cardinals are really flighty.
They're so
So I did
shy.
that. So I did that. So here's what happened. And this is so important. If you are the type that likes to sit in your car and take pictures from your car, stick your camera out the window, or if you like to try to take a picture by opening your window and sticking your lens out and taking a picture, you are still going to have some trouble. And I'm going to show you now. I'm going to zoom in on the photo. And now you can see how soft that photo is. And the reason that photo is so soft in a lot of places, sometimes some places it's sharp, some places it's soft, is because you're taking a lens that's in an atmosphere in your house and you're sticking it outside the door. Now, in this case, I have the door. I have a little bit of heat that's on in my basement to keep, to keep it so it doesn't get all damp and stuff. And when I opened up that door and stuck the lens out, what happened? All that heat decided it wanted to go out the door. When it does that, you're going to get currents. You're going to get actual temperature currents that'll go up the front of your lens, and you're still going to get a picture that's not so great. And you'll notice it even more so if it's the winter, because you're going from an absolutely warm house
Mhm.
to a really
Yeah.
cold environment, and you're going to get those currents. So if you're the type that likes to shoot from your car, make sure the car's turned off, your heater's turned off, the window's been down for a while, and you've had time to climatize your lens. Otherwise, those first few shots you're going to have some blurry shots and you're going to wonder why. And that is why.
Wow.
So,
Amazing. I
so
did not know that.
yeah. And more so when you're magnifying. So the more focal length that you use, like the more that you get those really long lengths, the more that's apparent, right? Okay, so that was that one. Let's look at another one. Okay, I've got actually, just give me a second. I'm going to make these photos small. See if I can't find, whoops, I'm looking for a specific photo. Here it is right here. Okay, what I'm bringing up now, whoops, there we go. is this little, I think they call him a fox sparrow. And this is the little bird that I shot in my backyard that he's sitting on a green piece of pressure treated lumber. It's actually off my observatory. There's a board that sticks out and he's sitting there. So when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, there's an absolutely beautiful shot. The first thing you're going to notice is, or you should notice, hopefully, is in the background of this shot, it is absolutely bokeh out just beautifully. And you're also going to notice that the color of the bokeh works in harmony with the color of the bird. And I have another
Perfect.
one I'm going to show you lately, a little later, and you can see that. And that's important to do that because that just makes it for a really nice color balanced image when you're doing that. Now, if I was going to, I don't know if I can do it with this one or not. Can I do it with this one? Just hang on a sec. Pardon me for one sec. I want to see if I can open this another way. No, I can't. Darn. Oh, I can't show you. All right, never mind. So, but there was a couple of things that I could have straightened out with this particular image. The first one is that the board is crooked. So if I had to straighten that out, use my rule of thirds and put that board exactly 1/3 up, that would have pushed the bird up a little bit higher. And then his eye, I would have taken the other crop. I don't think I can crop with this one. Oh, darn. Why did I do that? I thought I could open this in another way, but apparently I can't. Anyway, I just want to show just something that when you're taking photos, but in any event, I'll just go back to this photo. There we go, and show this one. So, so the thing you want to be conscious of is the horizon. So if the bird is sitting on something and it's the only thing in the scene and it's crooked, try to straighten it up. And you can do that in post, or you can do it when you're holding the camera. But the more you shoot, the more you'll be conscious of it. If I was to crop this, I would crop the crosshairs that you get when you do your cropping factor, and I would put that eye of the bird in that where it crosses over on the right hand side, and then that way there, the picture is balanced. The bird's eye is where it should be, and his face is further away from the area that he's looking than his tail is from the other side. So in other words, there's more space from here to here because he's looking that way. And anytime you're gazing some way, you should have some more space in front of you that way. So that's one thing I would talk about that little bird. Okay.
He's a cutie. I wish there was a man in he was in an art festival on the Kingston Peninsula, and he was showing us his collection of bird photos that look very similar to like some of these that you took on Spooner Island with the song sparrow and the eastern phoebe and the tree swallow.
Yeah.
But he has these, I was like, oh my gosh, like why? It's just so perfect every time. He actually has branches that he baits and sets up, and he just watches these branches and the birds come to the branch, and it's just always perfectly set up for him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was interesting. So you never know by looking at it that it looks completely natural.
Yeah. Well, that's what a lot of people suggest that you do if you watch a lot of these bird channels or birders on YouTube, the YouTubers. They'll suggest that you set up a perch in the back because they don't want it to look like you're feeding from a feeder because it just doesn't look natural. And like what you did to keep your bird feeders out of the frame.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That was absolutely that's no pun intended, the cardinal rule.
I like it. Yeah, it's the cardinals that come to the yard. They're so elusive. They're my I don't know what you call it, the thing that you're trying to get, but anyways, I'm hoping to get a good one this summer.
Okay, let me just turn this off for a second, and I'm hoping something will clear up on my screen. Okay, there it goes. Perfect. All right. So there's that aspect of things. Getting birds in flight. Okay, I want to talk just a little bit about that. So if we're going to get birds in flight, there are two things to consider. Your bird is going to be moving considerably faster than what you do. Now, I was down at Spooner. That's the place we go to catch birds here in Hampton. And I ran into one of the people that's part of our photography club. And she was saying, I can never get my birds not blurry. They're always so blurry. So we talked a little bit about what was going on and what she was doing, what her settings were, what the length of her camera lens was. And it turns out that her shutter speed was too slow. So you got to remember that these birds are moving fast, and lots of times you're hand holding and you're actually panning with the bird as it's flying. And if your shutter speed is too slow, you're going to run into that blur issue. So there's a rule to keep in mind, and that rule is this: if you have a focal length of, say, that lens I showed you earlier at 600 millimeters, then the minimum shutter speed you should have should be 1/600th of a second or faster. But when you're doing birds in flight, my rule of thumb is 1/1600th of a second to 1/2000th of a second. With larger birds, with the smaller birds, you might even go up to 1/4000th of a second. And because they move so fast, you've got to be able to follow them. And if you want to freeze them, then you've got to get at those shutter speeds. That's one thing. Okay, so let's cover this just briefly because we're time goes by. So when to go out first thing in the morning or last thing in the evening for the best light. The birds are either getting their first or last meal of the day. There's a fair bit of activity. The required equipment, we've already talked about that. The recommended settings for large birds that are sitting, 1/1000th of a second is a good starting point. 1/1000 to 1/1600, because even though they're just sitting, if they're in water, they're still moving, and lots of times they will make quick sporadic movements. So keep that shutter speed there. In flight, minimum 1/2500th of a second, minimum. Unless you are a machine and can actually pan like there's nobody's business. 1/2500 will freeze everything on that bird. The aperture. Now, this is very important. Try to keep your aperture between f8 and f10. And especially if you've got a long lens and you're not that far away from a bird, because you're going to soon see that your focal distance between where the distance starts, or your focus is in focus, and where it ends is very shallow. And so you got to be very, very careful that you don't have one side of the bird in focus and the other half of the bird out of focus. So f8 will get you there. And plus, f8 to f10 on most lenses is the sharper spot in the lens anyway. So do that. And if you're going to shoot birds and you're going to edit them later, make sure you shoot in RAW. RAW will always give you your best results for your ability to edit it later in post. And you will get some absolutely wonderful results in that. We are actually getting close to being out of time. This is such a great topic. I might even talk about this a little more next week. Kate's actually going to be away, and so I may do this again next week and talk a little bit more about this, get a little more in depth, because it is the season. There's a few things you should know. I'll show you some more examples, and then we'll kind of play with that and have some fun, because like I say, right now it's just so wonderful to be out in the warm weather again and seeing the leaves in the trees and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So if you want to see more things like this or other things like this, Kate, well, how do they find us?
Well, I think we have an email address that they can send stuff to, snapshots and stories at outlook.com, right? Not .ca.com. And yeah, send us your feedback, send us questions you have, especially in the next couple of weeks about birds and that sort of photography would be great. I know I'm looking forward to getting out and getting my own bird shots this summer, and I've learned a lot on this podcast just from this conversation myself. So thanks for sharing all that with us, Paul.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yes, snapshots and stories at outlook.com. If you have questions about, you're thinking about going out and taking some photos, you're not sure about stuff, send it on in. I'll answer the questions for you, and hopefully between the two of us, or the three of us, will get you up and running, getting some great shots. You can
leave
follow
comments on the videos too.
Yes, leave comments.
Videos,
Yep. So on YouTube, you can leave comments there. On the Facebook, you can leave comments there. We're also on Rogers. You can watch us there. So we're all around. So watch, share. If you are on YouTube, make sure they hit the subscribe, hit that bell so you can get notifications when our next videos are up. And our videos are usually on Tuesdays. So make Tuesday your snapshots and stories days with Kate and Paul. That would be wonderful. So I guess that's it for today, Kate. As usual, it just goes so darn fast.
It flew by, pun intended.
Perfect. Okay, so folks, thank you so much for tuning in. It was lots of fun. Get out there and shoot, and we'll talk to you soon. We'll see you on the next episode. So long for now.
Bye, everyone. See ya.